gosh. The struggle is real right now. I should have probably figured out how to before pressing go live. Okay, it's situated for now. I don't know if it's gonna work, but welcome to the study sesh. It didn't. YouTube didn't have me like set a title or a thumbnail or anything. So wow, my hair looks wild. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but today I have a lot of work to do, and I thought I'd capitalize on this moment, even though I'm not going to be making any money on this, but capitalize on this moment by doing a little study session together. So if you need someone to study with, here we are. I'm here with you. We're going to do this together. School is hard, and studying is really, really hard. I'm not studying right now. I'm doing actual work. Luckily, my degree doesn't have us study. It has us only do work. But I think I want to start by having a little ASMR moment. I recently got a Kindle Scribe, so I traded a couch for a Kindle Scribe. I'm a note taker by hand. I love taking notes by hand, but having a million notebooks is really annoying. And I happen to know someone who's trying to get rid of their Kindle Scribe, but their pen, the nub, is just I don't know if you can tell, but it's just a little bit worn out. So I ordered some new nubs on Amazon. So we're just gonna do that now. I know I haven't been on this channel in a super long time, and I realized that there's literally no one here watching right now. And that's fine. It's just been such a long time. My last video I said, oh, I'll be coming back. And then I started editing some videos, and I remembered how hard school is, and then having to try to make videos on top of that kind of was not the vibes. Oh wow. Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be a big difference. Oh yeah. So this is the new one, and this was the old one. Can you see how flat and frayed it is? Oh, I'm really excited to write with this. I'm gonna just put this over here. I just got this on Amazon. These nubs. It was $12 for 20 or something. I think there's 20 in there. I hope there's 20 in there. Let's see how it writes. Oh yeah, that's that's much better. Anyways, so right now, whoops. My bad. Sorry about that. So right now I have to read for my American literature class, American literature up to 1865. Water, hydrate or dihydrate. I did a little yoga. I think that before you start doing brain activity, it's really good to get your blood pumping. So do some sort of exercise or clean or whatever you got to do. Just do what you got to do to kind of, I don't know. Anyways, so right now I'm just going to read to you guys because why not? For copyright reasons, I don't know if I can read the whole thing, but I'm going to be stopping in between and just being like, oh my God, I don't believe it. So we're reading from the Norton Anthology of American Literature. And right now we have to read Ralph Waldo Emerson. So right now I have to read about him, and then I have to keep reading onto this stuff. So if you just want something in the background or you just want a buddy to study with, you can totally just zone out and listen or put me on mute and do what you gotta do because I'm holding you accountable. You better be doing your work. I'm doing mine. So Ralph Waldo Emerson, 1803 to 1882. He's arguably the most influential American writer of the 19th century, the writer with whom numerous other significant writers of the time sought to come to terms. Without Emerson's inspirational essays on nonconformity, self-reliance, and institutionalism. Henry David Thoreau's and Margaret Fuller's careers may have followed different paths, and without Emerson's call for an American bard whose poetry speaks somewhat wildly in addressing the nation's ample geography, Whitman's great poetry might never have been written. Though Melville rejected Emerson's optimism, satirizing him as the confidence man in 1857, as a physiological con man, he termed him a deep diver as well. Emerson's conception of nature as a sign of spirit permeates Melville's dynamic representations of the whale and the natural world in Moby Dick in 1851. Emerson's persisting influence on late 19th and 20th century American writers is evident in astonishing permutations on figures as diverse as Emily Dickinson, Louisa May Alcott, William James, Theodore Dreiser, Robert Frost, John Dewey, and his namesake Ralph Waldo Emerson. Emerson was born in Boston on May 25, 1803, the son of a Unitarian minister and the second of 5 surviving boys. He was 8 years old when his father died. Determined to send as many sons as he could to Harvard, the traditional route for ministers in training, Emerson's mother kept a succession of boarding houses. Around this time, Emerson's brilliant, eccentric aunt, Mary Moody Emerson, 1774 to 1863, stepped in to become his principal educator and inspiration, guiding his reading and challenging his thinking over the next several decades. In the more controversial setting of Boston Public Latin School, where he was set at age 9, and Harvard College, which he attended from 1817 to 1821, Emerson showed no particular promise, graduating from Harvard 19th in his class of 59. Emerson served, as he put it, as a hopeless schoolmaster in several Boston area schools, turning to the study of theology in 1825 at Harvard's Divinity School. He began preaching as a Unitarian in October 1826, and early in 1829 he was ordained by the Unitarians as a junior pastor at Boston's Second Church. In July of that year, he was promoted to pastor. Led in the 1820s by William Ellery Channing, 1780 to 1842, Boston Unitarianism accepted the Bible as the revelation of God's intentions, but no longer held that human beings were innately depraved. In his 1828 sermon, Likeness to God, Channing came close to suggesting that Jesus was not God, but rather the highest expression of humanity. Emerson was deeply influenced by Channing, and his skepticism toward historical Christianity was strengthened by his exposure to German higher criticism. When regarded to Judeo-Christian Bible as a document produced in a specific historical time, rather than as the direct word of God, and interpreted biblically miracles as stories comparable to the myths of other cultures, Emerson was gradually developing a greater faith in individual moral sentiment and institution than in revealed religion. In 1831, Emerson faced a personal crisis. His wife, Ellen Tucker Emerson, whom he had married in 1829, died of tuberculosis on February 8th at the age of 19. Grief-stricken, Emerson wrote his aunt Mary, quote, "My angel is gone to heaven this morning, and I am alone in this world," end quote. Emerson also faced a spiritual crisis, perhaps precipitated by the death of Ellen. As his thinking developed into a full-fledged with Unitarianism itself. Sorry, it's literally, what time is it? It is 8:12 p.m. right now on a Monday night. I'm a little tired. In 1832, Emerson notified the church that he had become so skeptical of the validity of the Lord's Supper that he could no longer administer the sacrament regarding it, as he remarked in his journal as, quote, "worship in the dead forms of our forefathers," end quote. He resigned his pastorate on December 22nd, 1832, and on Christmas Day sailed for Europe, where he would remain until October 1833. During his European tour, he called on a number of well-known writers in Italy, meeting Walter Savage Landor, in England, Samuel Coleridge and William Wordsworth, and in Scotland, Thomas Carlyle, with whom he began a lifelong intellectual friendship. Shortly after his return from Europe in late 1833, Emerson settled a legal dispute with the Tucker family and received the first installment of his wife's legacy. Soon he was assured of more than $1,000 annually, and a considerable sum for that time. Without the need to produce a constant income, he began a new career as a lecturer, speaking around New England in the lyceums, public halls that brought a variety of speakers and performers to cities and smaller towns. In 1835, after a 10-month courtship, he married Lydia Jackson of Plymouth, and they moved to rural Concord, Massachusetts, where the Emerson family had property. There, Emerson completed his first book, Nature, which was published anonymously and at Emerson's own expense in 1836. As the reviewers understood, Nature was not a Christian book, but one influenced by a range of idealistic philosophies, ancient and modern, going back to Plato and more recently refashioned by a number of European romantics. Although the favorable reception of Nature in England encouraged some American journalists to take Emerson seriously as an intellectual force, Emerson's immediate reward was having the book become the unofficial manifesto for a number of his philosophically inclined friends who, over the next 8 years, would meet irregularly and informally in Emerson's study and elsewhere. Termed transcendentalists by mocking outsiders, the group was composed mainly of ministers who rejected the view of the philosopher John Locke, and that the mind was merely a passive receptor of sense impressions, endorsing Samuel Coleridge's and other romantics' alternative conception of the mind as actively intuitive and creative. Participants included the educators Bronson Alcott and Elizabeth Palmer Peabody, and the abolitionist and Unitarian minister Theodore Parker, the Unitarian minister and influential American Catholic Ortiz A. Bronson, Margaret Fuller, and Henry David Thoreau. The group began its own journal, The Dial, edited for the most part by Emerson, Fuller, and Thoreau. Nature reached a smaller audience than did many of Emerson's lectures, which were often written up in the newspaper. His formal Harvard address to the Pi Beta Kappa Society in 1837, on the American Scholar and the Divinity School graduates in 1838, on the state of Christianity were both printed as pamphlets. Conservative ministers attacked the Divinity School address for its rejection of historical Christianity and its bold questioning of the claims made for Christ as a divine savior. But with the publication of essays, Emerson's lasting reputation began to take shape. For more than Nature, this book was directed to a popular audience. The 12 essays in the volume had been tried out in whole or in part by the lectures, so that their final form was shaped by the responses of as many audiences. Early in 1842, Emerson's first son, Waldo, died at the age of 5, a loss from which Emerson would never fully recover. Writing in his journal the day after Waldo's death, he expressed his grief and confusion. Quote, "Sorrow makes us all children again, destroys all differences of intellect, the wisest knowing nothing." End quote. For the philosopher of idealism, who had argued that the world can be apprehended mainly through the institution, the death of a beloved son pushed him toward the skepticism expressed most powerfully in experience. An essay presenting individuals as perpetually skating on surfaces. At the conclusion of the essay, however, Emerson, in his anticipation of the American School of Pragmatism, sorry, there was just a loud knock that sounded like it was in my kitchen, but my cat's laying down and I live alone, so that was weird. Profoundly influenced, insisted on the importance of continuing to act in the world, however elusive and tragic the world might be. Oh, it's also like really late. Hi, how are you doing? Oh, they're gone. There was one person in the chat and then they left, and now I'm alone again. So, hi. Emerson continued to work steadily on essays derived from his extensive journals and his lecturing. In 1844, he brought out a second series of essays, including his influential The Poet, which grappled with aesthetic issues on form and meter and foretold, indeed provided the blueprints for, the style and subject matter of some of the great national poets to come. Meter does not make the argument he wrote in striking contrast to his contemporary Edgar Allan Poe, but the argument, or poetic idea or vision, makes its own meter. Thus, he inspired Whitman to break with poetic tradition by introducing the idea of, quote, open form, end quote, poetry. Emerson lectured in Boston, across the Northeast, in the South, and even after the completion of um, Transcontinental Railroad in 1869 in California, giving more than 1,500 lectures over the course of his career. These, as much as his essays, helped develop his reputation. As Emerson's reputation continued to grow, he gained modest recognition for his own poems, which he collected at the end of 1846. In 1847 through 48, he took a second trip to Europe, delivering approximately 70 lectures in England and Scotland. One eventual result of the tour was the publication in 1856 in English Traits, an inquiry into the supposed racial, historical, and cultural characteristics of Anglo-Saxonism. I can't talk today. Like many thinkers of the time, Emerson accepted the idea of racial differences and hierarchies. Two other books emerged from his lectures: Representative Men, which examined exemplary intellectual and cultural figures such as Shakespeare and Napoleon, and The Conduct of Life, which examined tensions between thought and delimiting worldly forces, even as Emerson reaffirmed the power of self-culture in the individual mind, precisely because he so valued individual self-culture. Emerson was skeptical of social reforms that required group participation. In the early 1840s, he refused to participate in the re- reformists' socialistic community Brook Farm in West Roxbury, Massachusetts, which drew a number of the transcendentalists associated with the Dial. Abolitionism did engage his attention, however, and in 1844 he delivered a passionate anti-slavery address, Emancipation of the Negroes in the British West Indies, at the Concord Courthouse on August 1st, 1844. Appalled by the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, Emerson had become more fervent in his views during the 1850s, offering scathing attacks on Northern supporters of what he termed this filthy law. He also argued in favor of women's rights. In 1855, he spoke before a women's rights convention to support women's rights to vote, to hold their property as men do theirs, and to enter a school as freely as a church. Following the Civil War, Emerson cut back on his writing, partially for health reasons. As he aged, he began to display the symptoms of memory loss. But he had his vigorous moments. In 1871, he traveled to California, and in late 1872 and into 1873, he traveled to Europe and Egypt with his daughter Ellen, and he met with Carlyle on his one last time. Upon his return to Concord, he lectured occasionally there and in Boston. He died on April 27, 1882, and he was buried in Concord's Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. In a journal entry in 1836, Emerson wrote, quote, "There's creative readings as well as creative writing," end quote. As a creative writer, Emerson attempted to get his whole philosophy into every essay, and even into single sentences. At the same time, he was skeptical of the capacity of language to embody truths, so he presented his essays as epistemological, sorry, quests of sorts, in the twisting and turnings and circlings of thought, made enormous demands on his readers. Emerson's language can be elliptical and sometimes maddeningly abstract, but there was no American writer who placed greater importance on the reader's active interpretive role in generating new meanings and new ways of seeing the world. Emerson's great respect for the independent spirit of his readers, his prompting of readers to trust their ideas and take them in new and even different directions, the main point of self-reliance, perhaps his most famous essay, may in fact be the key to his broad literary and cultural influence. Wow, that was a lot of words. So that was like the history of Ralph Waldo Emerson. I'm dying over here. I have photos downloading on this side, and then I have brain going on this side, and then I have to type a journal entry for the professor that's like 2 pages long based on what I read tonight. So let's read some of Emerson's work. If you have ever heard of Emerson, he's a famous American author who basically was based here in Massachusetts, more in eastern northern Massachusetts, like around Boston, Concord area, and I'm in western Massachusetts, so it's pretty close. It's about a couple hours away, and he's buried in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. Like, I thought his name sounded really familiar, so if you know about Sleepy Hollow, then you know about Ralph Waldo Emerson. I'm pretty sure that he wrote The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Don't quote me, but I'm like pretty certain that that's the case. But let's read some of his essays, which are also creative writing. So essay sounds really boring, but I don't think they're actual like essays. So this first one's called Nature. Nature is but an image or imitation of wisdom, the last thing of the soul. Nature being a thing which doth only do, but not know. Plotinus. That I really like that. That's a cute quote. Not cute. It's very demure. No, I thought that was a really good quote. Um, Especially being pagan, like I kind of resonate with that. Introduction. Our age is retrospective. It builds the sepulchres of our fathers. It writes biographies, histories, and criticism. The foregoing generations behold God and nature face to face, we through their eyes. Why should not we also enjoy an original relation to the universe? Why should we have poetry and philosophy of insight and not of tradition? The religion by revelation to us, and not the history of theirs, embosomed for a season in nature. These pages are like a Bible. Whose floods of life stream around and through us, and invite us by the powers that supply, to action proportion to nature. Why should we grope among the dry bones of the past, or put the living generation into masquerade out of its faded wardrobe? The sun shines today also. There's more wool than flax in the fields. There are new lands, new men, new thoughts. Let us demand our own works and laws and worship. Undoubtedly, we have no questions to ask which are unanswerable. We must trust the perfection of the creation so far, as to believe that whatever curiosity the order of things has awakened in our minds, the order of things can satisfy. Oops. Where was I? Every man's condition is a solution in hieroglyphic to those inquiries he would put. He acts it as life, before he apprehends it as truth. In like manner, nature is already, in its forms and tendencies, describing its own design. Let us interrogate the great apparition, that shines so peacefully around us. Let us inquire, to what end is nature? All science has one aim, namely, to find a theory of nature. We have theories of races and of functions, but scarcely yet a remote approximation to an idea of creation. We are now so far from the road to truth that religious teachers dispute to hate and hate each other, and speculative men are esteemed unsound and frivolous. But to a sound truth is the most practical. True theory appears, it will be its own evidence. It's its test. Its test is that it will explain all phenomena. I saw the P, I got rid of the H, and I said pneumonia. That doesn't make sense, right, study buddy? Now many are thought not only unexplained, but inexplainable, as language, sleep, dreams, beasts, sex. Psychologically considered, the universe is composed of nature and the soul, strictly speaking, therefore, all that is separate from us, all which philosophy distinguishes as the not me, that is, both nature and art. All other men in my own body must be ranked under this nature. Under this name, nature. In enumerating the values of nature and casting up their sum, I shall use the word in both senses, in its common and its physiological import. In inquiries so general as our present one, the inaccuracy is not material, no confusion of thought will occur. Nature in the common sense refers to essences unchanged by man, space, the air, the river, the leaf. Art is applied to the mixture of his will with the same things, as in a house, a canal, a statue, a picture. But his operations taken together are so insignificant, a little chirping, baking, patching, and washing, that in an impression so grand as that of the world of the human mind, they do not vary the result. Chapter 1, Nature. To go into solitude, a man needs to retire as much from his chamber as from society. I am not solitary whilst I read and write, though nobody is with me. But if a man would be alone, let him look at the stars. The rays that come from those heavenly worlds will separate between him and the vulgar things. One might think the atmosphere was made transparent with the design to give man, in the heavenly bodies, the perpetual presence of the sublime. Seen in the streets of cities, how great they are! If the stars should appear one night in 1,000 years, how would men believe and adore and preserve for many generations the remembrance of the city of God which had been shown? But every night come out of these preachers of beauty and light the universe with their admonishing smile. The stars awaken a certain reverence, because though always present, they are always inaccessible. But all natural objects make a kindred impression when the mind is open to their influence. Nature never wears a mean appearance. Neither does the wisest man extort all their secret and lose his curiosity in finding out all her perfection. Nature never came to toy to a wise spirit. The flowers, the animals, the mountains reflected all the wisdom of his best hour, as much as they are delighted with the simplicity of his childhood. When we speak of nature in this manner, we have a distinct but most poetical sense of the mind. We mean the integrity of impression made by manifold natural objects, and this which distinguishes the stick of timber of the wood cutter from the tree of the poet. The charming landscape which I saw this morning is undoubtedly made of some 20 or 30 farms. Miller owns this field, Locke that, and Manning the woodland beyond, but none of them owns the landscape. There is a property in the horizon which no man has but he whose eyes can integrate all the parts, that is, the poet. This is the best part of the man's farms, yet to this their land deeds give them no title. To speak truly, few adult persons can see nature. Most persons do not see the sun, at least they have a very superficial seeing. The sun illuminates only the eye of the man, but shines into the eye of the heart of the child. The lover of nature is he whose inward and outward sense are still truly adjusted to each other, who has retained the spirit of infancy even into the era of manhood. His intercourse with heaven and earth becomes a part of his daily food, in the presence of nature. A wild delight runs through the man, in spite of real sorrows. Look how small the text is. Okay, I'm gonna slip up a few times. Nature says, "He is my creature," in Morag. Marger. All right, I know there's literally no one watching this right now, but the word is Maugre. The definition, it says despite. I don't know what that word is, but so I'm just going to say despite. Nature says, "He is my creature, and despite all his impertinent griefs, he shall be glad with me. Not the sun or the summer alone, but every hour and season yields its tribute of delight. For every hour and change corresponds to and authorizes a different state of the mind, from breathless noon to grimmest midnight. Nature is a setting that fits equally well a comic or a morning piece. In good health, the air is a cordial of incredible virtue, crossing a bare common in the snow puddles at twilight under a clouded sky. Without having in my thoughts any occurrence of special good fortune, I have enjoyed a perfect exhilaration. Almost I fear to think about how glad I am. In the woods, too, a man casts off his years, as the snake his slough. In what period soever of life is always a child. In the woods is perpetual youth. Within these plantations of God, a decorum of sanctity reign, a perennial festival is dressed, and the guest sees not how he should tire of them in 1,000 years. In the woods we return to reason and faith. There I feel that nothing can befall me in life, no disgrace, no calamity, leaving me my eyes, which nature cannot repair. Standing on the bare ground, my head bathed in the blithe air, and uplifted into the infinite space, all mean egotism vanishes. I become a transparent eyeball. I am nothing. I see all. The currents of the universal being circulate through me. I am part of a particle of God. The name of the nearest friend sounds the foreign and accidental. Oh my god. Sorry, it keeps falling over. To be brothers, to be acquaintances, masters or servant, is then a trifle and a disturbance. I am the lover of unconditioned and immortal beauty. In the wilderness, I find something more dear incarnate than in the streets or villages. In the tranquil landscape, and especially in the distant line of the horizon, man beholds somewhat as beautiful as his own nature. It says, shortly after the publication of Nature, Emerson's friend, the artist and poet Christopher Cronch, depicted him as a transparent eyeball in the illustrations of the New Philosophy. Didn't expect that, huh? That it was going to be a picture book. The greatest delight which the fields and woods minister, as the suggestion of the occult relation between man and the vegetable. I am not alone and unacknowledged. They nod to me and I to them. The waving of the boughs of the storm is new to me and old. It takes me by surprise and yet is unknown. Its effect is like that of a higher thought or better emotion coming over me, when I deemed I was thinking justly or doing right. Yet it is certain that the power to produce this delight does not reside in nature, but in man, in a harmony of both. It is necessary to use these pleasures with great temperance, for nature is not always tricked in holiday attire, but the same scene which yesterday breathed perfume and glittered, as for those frolic of the nymphs, is overspread with melancholy today. Nature always wears the color of the spirit. To a man laboring under calamity, the heat of his own fire hath sadness in it. Then there is a kind of contempt of the landscape felt by him who has just lost the death of a dear friend. The sky is less grand as it shuts down over less worth in the population. Whoever considers the final cause of the world. Oh, chapter 2, commodity. Take a sip. Hydrate or dehydrate. Whoever considers the final cause of the world will discern a multitude of uses that enter as parts into that result. They all admit of being thrown into one of the following classes: commodity, beauty, language, and discipline. Under the general name of commodity, I rank all those advantages which our senses owe to nature. This, of course, is the benefit which is temporary and meditate, not ultimate, like its service to the soul. Yet, although low, it is perfect in its kind. It is the only use of nature which all men apprehend. The misery of man appears like a childish petulance. When we explore the steady and project project prodigal provision that has been made for his support and delight on the green ball which floats him through the heavens, what angels invented these splendid ornaments which these rich my mouth is getting tired. After this, I might have to start typing. These splendid ornaments, these rich conveniences, this ocean of air above, this ocean of water beneath, this firmament of earth between, this zodiac of lights, the tent of dropping clouds, the striped coat of climates, this fourfold year, beasts, fire, water, stones, and corn serve him. The field is at once his flower, his floor, his workyard, his playground, his garden, and his bed. More servants wait on man than he'll take notice of. Nature in its ministry to no man, to man. It's okay to get tired while you study. It is almost 9 o'clock. Nature in its ministry to man is not only the material, but is also the process and the result. All the parts insistently work into each other's hands for the profit of man. The wind sows the seed, the sun evaporates the seed, the wind blows the vapor to the field, the ice on the other side of the planet condenses rain on this. The rain feeds the plant feeds the animal, and thus the endless circulations of the divine charity nourish man. The useful arts are but reproductions of new combinations by the wit of man of the same natural benefactors. He no longer waits for the favoring gales, but by means of steam he releases the fable of that's not English lettering. Ulysses? Is it Ulysses? Yes. In Homer's Odyssey, Aeolus, the god of winds, gives Odysseus a bag containing favorable winds, but they create a storm when his unwary sailors let him when his unwary sailors let them all out at once. That reminds me of the SpongeBob movie when he gives them a fucking bag of winds. And carries the 2 and 30 winds in the boiler of his boat. To diminish friction, he paves the road with iron bars, and mounting a coach with a shipload of men, animals, and merchandise behind him, he darts through the country from town to town like an eagle or a swallow through the air. by the aggregate of the aids, how in the face of the world changed from the era of North to the Napoleon. The private poor man hath cities, ships, canals, bridges built for him. He goes to the post office, and the human race runs on his errands. To the bookshop, and the human race read and write of all that happens. For him to the courthouse, the nations repair his wrongs. He sets his house upon the road, and the human race go forth every morning and shovel out the snow and cut a path for him. But there is no need for specifying particulars in the class of uses. The catalogue is endless, and the examples so obvious that I shall leave them to the reader's reflection, with the general remark that this mercenary benefit is one which has respect to a farther good. A man is fed, not that he may be fed, but that he may work. That was really exhausting. Thank you for not watching. I finished uploading these photos. So does anyone know how, since no one is watching, does anyone know how to include people? Oh, here we go. So let's say, anyone with a link? So I took some senior photos. Sorry, this effing sucks. I don't know why it must do this to me, but let's try to put up with this then. Okay. I took senior photos for my cousin, and I've been so absolutely busy with everything that I haven't had time to send them. Okay. Yeah, can this work, please? Hello? Send. Sensational. Here. Why isn't it working? It's not letting me. I just don't understand what it wants me to do. Hi, we're doing a little study sesh. I hope that you enjoy reading some Ralph Waldo Emerson. Oh no, they left. That's fine. It doesn't matter. They just came to check out what was going on, and they were like, oh, we're studying. That's lame. I don't want to study. Well, if you need a study buddy, I'm here to study buddy with you. So, let's see. I want to know what he was on about, because I really liked reading that. I thought that was pretty insightful, and coming from a minister, just talking about nature like that, I thought that was really interesting. So, what was... shape. Yeah. I guess I'll just leave it on me then. Okay. No, I said I don't want to log in. Can you stop, please? I'm trying to look up what the deeper meaning is, because sometimes it's just helpful for me to see the deeper meaning if I look it up, and then piece it together. So this says, in nature, Ralph Waldo Emerson presents a profound exploration, the profound exploration of the relationship between humans and the natural world. That's what I thought. Arguing that nature serves as a mirror for the soul and as a means for spiritual and intellectual growth. I was getting the mirror of the soul vibe when he was talking about how if you're having a bad day, like, yeah, the sky's gonna be gray, like things are gonna look awful and suck. The essay is one of Emerson's foundational works of transcendentalism, a philosophical movement that emphasizes the inherent goodness of both people and nature, the importance of intuition in individual experience, and the connection between the human spirit and the natural world. Wow. Some key ideas was nature is a reflection of the divine, the unity of the self in nature, nature as a source of inspiration and enlightenment, the concept of transparency, and the transcendence of nature, critique of human conformity, the sublime in nature, self-resilience, and individualism. Wow, that's a lot of themes. Of course, we only got like 2 chapters in. This cup tastes bad. But that's pretty wild. So let me look at what I have to do for a journal. I know I have to have a quote of sorts. Let's see here. What does my professor want? What do you want, mister? Big stack of papers. Let's see. This is the current class, okay. Oral report assignment, no. Can I just turn the page, please? Thesis, reading journal. So let's see. What does he want? 400 to 500 words. Okay. Let's go to Google Docs. Are you studying? Did you finish what you were supposed to finish? No? Well, you better get back to it. Yeah, I'm your study buddy, dude. I have to make sure that you're doing the work too. I'm over here about to write a journal. I just read you like a whole book. What did you do? Do your work. I have like no Wi-Fi in this room, so while this is loading, I guess I can keep reading. So I have to have a strong personal connection with the reading. There's several options. Write a brief analytical paper, like an expanded in-depth thesis assignment. Write a first-person account of how you relate to the reading through a similar or related experience, relationship, or association. Contextualize the reading in terms of related historical event, whatever. I think I am going to talk about how these ideals that Emerson provides in this writing, although he was Christian, Unitarian Christian, he kind of like left the church and started doing this transcendentalism. That's a big word and I can't say it. Anyways, even though like he like moved from Christianity to that, I feel like his ideals that he's talking about are very like pagan in origin, and I think I want to talk about that. I think that's also interesting that I didn't intend this to be like pagan related whatsoever, but here we are. And this is pagan channel, so I guess it fits perfectly. But oops. I'm just gonna start my MLA format. Remember how to do MLA format? Are you writing your essays in MLA format? At least your English ones. I know for a lot of other ones they are not MLA, but are you doing it? I hope so. It is November 4th, 2024. American Literature to 1865 with Professor word count has to be 400, right, to 500 words. Has to be 12-point font, double spaced. Okay. After reading Emerson's Nature, I found his religious background to be quite intriguing. Though he came from Christian roots, let's probably turn on word count. Oh, there we go. We're at 33 words already. Wow. I found his ideas to be quite pagan. Wow. Reading through his essay. I decided to look Emerson was a Unitarian minister. Let's see, what do Unitarians believe in? Unitarian Christians believe. Let's see. That embraces a distinct theological perspective characterized by their rejection of traditional doctrines like the Trinity and original sin, while emphasizing the unity of God and the importance of reason, conscience, and individual experience in religious life. Their beliefs often vary somewhat depending on the specific community or tradition, but the key tenets of Unitarian Christianity generally include the following. Unitarian view of God. Unitarian Christians reject the Orthodox Christian doctrine of the Trinity, the belief in God as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and instead emphasize the oneness or unity of God. They believe in a single invisible God rather than a true in Godhead. This is why they are referred to as Unitarians, the belief in the unitary nature of God. Number 2, Jesus as a human teacher, not divine. Unitarian Christians view Jesus as an exceptional human being and divinely inspired teacher, but not as a literal Son of God or part of the Trinity. They often regard Jesus as a moral leader and a model for living a righteous life. While they deeply respect his teachings and his role in revealing God's will, they do not believe in his divinity in the way the traditional Christian denominations do. For example, the belief in Jesus as both fully human and fully divine. Number 3, the rejection of original sin. Unitarians generally reject the doctrine of the original sin, which holds that all human beings inherit a sinful nature from Adam and Eve's fall. Instead, Unitarian Christians believe in human beings' inherent capacity for goodness and moral development. They maintain that individuals are not born sinful, but are capable of making moral choices and seeking personal and spiritual growth. Emphasis on reason, conscience, and free will. A hallmark of Unitarian Christianity is its emphasis on the use of reason and individual conscience in matters of faith. Unitarian Christians believe that each person has the freedom to explore, question, and form their own understanding of God, morality, and truth. This perspective also often leads to a highly individualized and diverse approach to theology, with a focus on personal spiritual experience over adherence to prescribed dogma. I'm like questioning my faith right now after reading like all of this. Number 5, a non-literal approach to scripture. Unitarians tend to view the Bible as a collection of writings that contain moral and spiritual wisdom, but they do not consider it to be the infallible or inherent word of God. They are more likely to interpret biblical texts in a historical, cultural, and metaphorical context rather than accepting them literally. Unitarian Christians often seek deeper allegorical meanings in scripture rather than rigidly adhering to traditional interpretations. Number 6, moral and ethical focus. Unitarian Christianity places a strong emphasis on ethical living, social justice, and compassion. Many Unitarian Christians are active in movements for social justice, peace, and environmental stewardship. They believe that the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual leaders should inspire a life of service to others and a commitment to creating a better, more equitable world. Number 7, inclusivity and tolerance. Unitarian Christians generally take an inclusive and tolerant approach to other faiths. They may accept insights from various religious traditions, such as Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, or Hinduism, and believe that truth can be found in many different paths. This open-mindedness allows for a diversity of beliefs within Unitarian congregations. Number 8, salvation as personal growth and transformation. Unitarian Christians do not typically believe in salvation as a one-time event or through belief in Jesus as a sole path to eternal life. Instead, they may view salvation as an ongoing process of spiritual growth, moral development, and the cultivation of inner peace and connection with God. This process involves aligning one's life with higher moral principles such as love, justice, and compassion. The historical context, I don't really want to read that. Okay, so writing in my essay, Emerson was a Unitarian minister. They believed in a more loose reading of the Bible, stating that it was more metaphorical than literal. Unitarians also believed that God was everywhere and everything, not that they were a literal divine being. Though my research showed that Unitarians were very open to different beliefs in God, I due to his new beliefs that were coined, quote. Did you finish that essay? Get to it. Drink your water. You need a minute to stretch. You want to stretch real quick? Maybe grab a blanket. It's kind of cold in here, huh? Okay. Yes, that was weird. Yes, it was a POV you're studying with me. Oh. Let's do some yoga. Okay, breathe in and stretch your arms up. Hold it for a second. Wiggle your fingers. And let it all out. Touch your toes. Roll back up. Wiggle your body a little bit. Oh. Come here. You gonna say hi? No. Let me go get you a blanket. I'll be right back. I got a blankie. All right, let's get comfy and start doing our work again. All right, so they were coined. Ooh, it's fucking cold in here. Excuse me. Oh, you're almost done? That's good to hear. I still got quite a bit of ways to go. I've only wrote about 100 words. Only 300 or 400 more left to go. The cat's getting into a pizza box. I can hear him. Oh, cold. Shadow! Psst. I'm trying to get him to stop. My dad's right below us, though. I don't want to wake him up. I'm pretty sure he's trying to go to sleep, so I'm being quiet. Why can't I find it? There's too many words. Oh, found it. Coined. Transcendentalist. Coined. Okay. I found it interesting that Emerson left the church due to his new beliefs that were coined transcendentalists. Transcendentalists. Emerson's new beliefs showcased the idea that God is nature and is mirrored through our lives. What else did we say about Emerson's beliefs? Ooh, it's freaking cold. God is nature. Showcase the idea that God is nature. That we are mirrored through nature, and that nature is transcendent. And that nature is transcendent. Let's see. Nature is depicted as having an inherent power to elevate human consciousness. Emerson stresses that to understand and appreciate the deeper spiritual meaning of nature, one must transcend materialism, ego, and conventional societal norms. This transcendence leads to a more profound sense of freedom and self-reliance. I find his ideals to be very familiar within the pagan community. There are many different types of paganism, though many of them are nature-based religions that focus on letting go of one's ego and earthly materials to then transcend spiritually. How's your essay coming? It's a part of you. Do you have all the quotes? How's your works cited? Does it look good? You made sure that you did the formatting correctly? All the periods are in the right spot? Okay. Good. I'm still working on mine. The reverence for nature is a central theme in many pagan traditions, and it can be understood in a number of different ways depending on the particular belief system. That's true. Okay, there are many different types of paganism, though many of them are nature-based religions that focus on letting go of one's ego and earthly materials to then transcend spiritually. The reverence for nature is a central theme in many pagan traditions, and it can be understood in a number of ways, different ways depending on the particular belief system. I'm going to say, though, nature, though a reverence for nature is a central theme. It can be understood in a number of ways depending. There's a number several different ways depending on particular belief system. Halfway there. What's my hair doing? Oh, who cares? Do you like my jacket? I just got it from Lululemon. It was my first and last Lululemon purchase. I must say, they are not it, sis. The hype. Good quality, but look how short my arms are. Why is it so... And also, it barely zips over my boobs, like, and my boobs are not even that big. It's really tight, this jacket. I also got this little top, too, which I think is really cute, but it's too big. And I followed the size guide exactly, and it's still too big. And then the pants, I got rid of the pants because they gave me camel toe really bad. It looked awful. It looked terrible. I don't know. Anyways, let's get back to our work. I hope that you're working hard. There was a quote in here that I really liked. Why should not we have a poetry and philosophy and insight in a tradition, and religion by revelation to us, and not the history of theirs? Embosomed for a season in nature, whose floods of life stream around and through us and invite us by the powers they supply to action proportioned by nature. Why should we grope among the dry bones of the past, or put the living generation into a masquerade out of its faded wardrobe? The sun shines today also. There is more to wool and flax in the fields. There are new lands, new men, new thoughts. Let us demand our own works and laws of worship. So, what quote do you think I should use? Undoubtedly, we have no question are unanswerable. We must read. Strictly speaking, therefore, all that is separate from us, all which philosophy distinguishes as the not me, that is both nature and art, all other men and my own body, must be ranked under this name, nature. In enumerating the values of nature and casting up their sum, I shall use the word in both senses, in its common and its philosophical import. I'm so tired. Inquiries so general as our present one. The inaccuracy is not material. No confusion of thought will occur. nature in the common sense, refers to essences unchanged by man, space, the air, the river, the leaf. Art is applied to the mixture of his will with the same things in his house, a canal, a statue, a picture. But his operations taken together are so insignificant. A little chipping, baking, patching, and washing, that in an impression so grand as that of the world on the human mind, they do not vary the result. Okay. I'm gonna put nature in unchanged by man. Space, the air, the river, the leaf. Art is applied to the mixture of his will with the same things as in a house, a canal, a statue. I'm just gonna put dot 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 but his operation taken together are so that in an impression so grand as that of the world on the human mind, they do not vary the result. Page 504. Oh, you're getting ready for bed? I get it. Did you finish all of your work? Good. I'm proud of you. Well, I'm halfway done with mine, so thanks for studying with me. I will bid you adieu. Good night, sweet dreams, and I hope to see you again some other time. What are all these little fancy things? Oh, well, now that I know that these exist, maybe we'll have some fun next time. But let's just put us to bed for now. Good night.